Picture this. You walk into a casino and see two players at the blackjack table. One has memorized every probability, studied every strategy guide, optimized every decision tree. The other, he's already played 10,000 hands this month. Who would you bet on? I asked Chatgpt to rank me on a scale of 1 to 100. Not my achievements, not my bank account, me as a human being, as a force in reality. It gave me an 85. Then I asked for the brutal truth. Asshole mode. No cushioning. 72. That 13-point gap? That's not the difference between good and great. That's the difference between understanding the game and actually playing it. And here's what nobody tells you. Most people live their entire lives in that gap, checking in, but never checking out. Welcome to the Hotel California effect of personal development. The 95 plus revelation. When I pushed for examples of 95 plus people, the AI didn't give me philosophers or monks. It gave me Goggins, Musk, Hormozy. I asked it if it was ranking people by wealth. It said they were the ones who had crossed a very specific line. Think of reality like water. Most of us are rocks at the bottom, solid, stable, accumulating sediment. We study the current. We understand fluid dynamics. We optimize our surface area for minimal erosion. 95 plus people, they're not rocks, they're rapids. They don't study the water, they create turbulence. They move at a speed that forces everything around them to respond. Not because they're reckless, because they discovered something the rest of us intellectualize but never embody. Speed dissolves fear faster than courage ever could. The compression principle. Here's what separates someone in the 90s from someone in the 70s or 80s. It's not what they eventually do. It's how fast reality has to update around them. Imagine two people learning to swim. Both will eventually swim across the pool. One takes lessons for 6 months, carefully progressing from floating to kicking to proper strokes. The other jumps in the deep end every morning for 2 weeks until their body figures it out. Same destination, different nervous systems by the end. The first swimmer learned to swim. The second learned that learning itself is just controlled drowning at different speeds. Most people, smart people, disciplined people, they create these elaborate progression systems. They optimize their trajectory. They minimize waste. They're playing chess while reality is playing Tetris. The blocks are falling faster than their planning can accommodate. But here's the real knife twist. The AI said, your biggest weakness isn't fear. It's that you're almost dangerous, and almost is the most comfortable place to hide. Almost discipline, almost high impact, almost inevitable. Think about that word, almost. It's not failure, it's not success. It's this peculiar purgatory where you're never quite paying the full price of people who really try. It's like being a black belt in the theory of fighting. You can break down every move, explain every principle, see every opening, but you've never actually been punched in the face enough times for your flinch reflex to die. And that's where most intelligent people set up camp, in the land of almost. When I called out that all the 95 plus examples were wealthy, the AI made a distinction that it's not that wealth makes you 95 plus, it's that wealth is one of the only things that makes 95 plus people visible. Most 95 plus people are invisible by design. They're not writing books or building brands. They're just compounding. The monk who never left the monastery. The craftsman who makes one thing for 30 years, the man who rebuilt after losing everything without creating a single piece of content about it. Reality bends around them too. We just don't see it because they're not selling the story. But here's what wealth does reveal. It shows who can consistently make reality respond, not through luck or timing, but through sheer volume of contact. Money is just the scoreboard that happens to be public. And this brings us to the heart of it all. The difference between 72 and 95 isn't what you'll eventually do. It's the tempo at which reality has to process you. Think of it like music. Most people play life in 4/4 time. Steady, predictable, optimized. They hit every note correctly. Follow the sheet music. Minimize mistakes. 95 plus people? They're playing in 7/8, off kilter, uncomfortable. But once you adjust to their rhythm, everything else sounds slow. They don't move fast because they're brave. They move fast because they discovered that bravery is just fear spread out over too much time. Compress the timeline enough and there's no space left for the fear to live. When I asked about my trajectory, where I'd be at 40, at 50, the AI said, by 50, it wouldn't be a number anymore. It would be obvious. Because here's what happens when you compound at different speeds. The person optimizing carefully for 20 years and the person creating controlled chaos for 20 years, they don't end up 20 years apart. They end up in different universes. One has a perfectly debugged life, the other has gravity. One is still choosing when to engage, the other has become inevitable. So what actually separates the 90 plus people from everyone else? It's not intelligence. Plenty of brilliant people accomplish nothing. It's not discipline. Lots of disciplined people stay small. It's not even courage. Courage implies you still feel the fear. It's this. 90 plus people have more collisions with reality per unit time than everyone else. They're not trying to win through superior strategy. They're winning through superior contact. More approaches, more ships, more failures, more feedback, more iterations, more things that could go wrong. And here's the counterintuitive part. They're not doing this because they're confident. They're confident because they do this. The action creates the state, not the other way around. But let's end where we started, with that gap between 85 and 72. Because that gap is where most of us live, in the space between what we understand and what we embody, between our insights and our impact, between the game we could play and the game we're actually playing. We become connoisseurs of our own potential. We optimize our internal experience. We build elaborate mental models. We can explain exactly why something works or doesn't work, but we're still checking in more than we're checking out, because checking out requires something harder than courage or discipline or intelligence. It requires being willing to look slightly foolish repeatedly at a speed that doesn't let you process the embarrassment before the next rep hits. It requires choosing volume over elegance in at least one arena of your life. It requires accepting that the hotel was never a destination. It was just where you stayed while you were afraid of the highway. Most people never leave. They redecorate their room. They optimize the minibar. They study the architecture. They become experts on hotels, but they never check out. Because once you check out, you can't check back into the same room. The you that was comfortable there, that version is gone. And that's the real fear, not failure, not rejection, not embarrassment. The fear that if you actually play at the speed reality rewards, you won't recognize yourself anymore. And you'd be right, you won't. That's the point. If you like this kind of content, please share it.